Now, I have another thing I want you to look at. See this page? It should be right behind, right about where you are now.
What's it say at the top?
It says Enuma Elish. That's what it says. The Babylonian Genesis.
Okay.
Okay? I told you that the priestly redactor had probably been in exile in Babylon. This is the Babylonian story, or really very a small part of it, but it does cover the part with the creation of the world. He brings the story back, and then look at what he does with it. Okay. What he has is a fight between two gods, Marduk and Tiamat. Tiamat is kind of a huge crocodile. She's a she. Marduk is the son of their high god. And Tiamat is giving them a terrible time. She is eating people. She is not a nice person. And Marduk decides that he is going to go and deal with Tiamat. So he does. And when he has killed Tiamat, he divides her in half, and the top half becomes the sky, and the bottom half becomes the earth and the water under it, in their story, okay? And from her arteries and capillaries, he forms the sky and the earth and the animals, and the gods then get a little put out because they don't have anybody to wait on them. And so Marduk decides that he needs helpers to wait on the gods, and so he creates human beings. Okay? Now open to Genesis 1. That's what he had to work with. And if I leave you behind, tell me. Okay. Let me get my notes open. Yeah. Okay. In the first story, God, that is El, the transcendent high God, creates the world. And we're used to our Bibles starting in the beginning, God created, okay? And there's this thing called creation ex nihilo, creation out of nothing. Let me read what the Hebrew Bible in English says. When God began to create heaven and earth, the earth being unformed and void, with darkness over the surface of the deep and a wind from God sweeping over the water, then God said. Okay? So it's similar, but it's not out of nothing. There was stuff there. and God makes something of it. Okay. I was going to bring my Tanak, but I don't want to carry something.
I think I have.
Huh?
I think I have one in my office.
No, we don't need it. We're fine. Okay, let's get to Genesis 1, and any 8 people start reading.
Any 8 people?
Any.
How many verses?
Well, I think you've got one creation at a time, one thing to create at a time. Daddy, why don't you start, and then we can kind of go this way.
In the beginning, when God created the heavens and the earth was formless, a formless wasteland, and darkness covered the abyss, while a mighty wind swept over the waters. Then God said, "Let there be light," and there was light. God saw how good the light was. God then separated the light from the darkness. God called the light day, and the darkness he called the night. Thus evening came, and morning followed the first day. Then God said,
Wait, go. Notice what's happening. All right? One day.
Mhm.
So they take it a day at a time. We talking about a 24-hour day? Oh, no. Even geologists, it's an eon at a time, please. Remember him. It's an eon. It's not a 24-hour day. But that's the poetry of it. That's the way he makes the poem. Okay, Sarah, go ahead.
And God said, "Let there be an expanse between the waters to separate water from water." So God made the expanse and separated the water under the expanse from the water above it. And it was so. God called the expanse sky, and there was evening and there was morning, the second day.
Okay. Hebrew world. This is a cloth, and there are holes in it so that lights can come through it. We would call them stars. And the earth is on stilts. Really, I didn't put stilts in. The earth is on stilts, keeping it out of the water. But that's their concept, the dome of the sky. Okay? Didn't mean to interrupt, but thought you needed that picture. Okay?
Okay?
And God said, "Let the waters under the sky be gathered together into one place, and let the dry land appear." And it was so. God called the dry land earth, and the waters that were gathered together he called seas. And God saw that it was good. Then God said, "Let the earth put forth vegetation, plants yielding seed, and fruit trees of every kind on the earth that bear fruit with the seed in it." And it was so. The earth brought forth vegetation, plants yielding seed of every kind, and trees of every kind bearing fruit with the seed in it. And God saw that it was good. And there was evening and there was morning, the third day.
Are you beginning to get a pattern? Okay? Beginning to... This is a poem. This is a poem. Okay, you want to...
And God said, "Let there be light in the firmament of the heaven to divide the day from the night. And let them be for signs, and for the seasons, and for the days and years. And let them be for lights in the firmament of the heaven to give light upon the earth." And it is so.
And God made two great lights, the greater light to rule the day, the lesser light to rule the night. He made the stars also. And God set them in the firmament in the heaven to give light upon the earth, to rule over the day and over the night, and to divide the light from the darkness. And God saw that it was good. And the evening and the morning were the fourth day. So therefore, there are your holes in your wall.
Yeah. Got the picture. I mean, is this beginning to take shape for you in their way of thinking? Okay. Their theology. Okay.
And God said, let the waters bring forth swarms of living creatures, and let birds fly above the earth across the dome of the sky. So God created the great sea monsters and every living creature that moves of every kind, with which the waters swarmed, and every winged bird of every kind. And God saw that it was good. God blessed them, saying, be fruitful and multiply, and fill the waters of the sea. Let the birds multiply on the earth. And there was evening, and there was morning, the fifth day.
Okay. Hear the pattern. Hear the pattern. And there was evening and morning, the first day, the second day, the third day. Okay. That says to me it's poetry. It's no. Okay. Next.
And God said, let the earth bring forth living creatures after their kind, cattle and creeping things, and beasts of the earth after their kind. And it was so. And God made the beasts of the earth after his kind, and cattle after their kind, and everything that creepeth upon the earth after his kind. And God saw that it was good. And God said,
Let's wait and let somebody else deal with that. Okay, you want to go ahead with that? The next. We haven't come to the end of that day, but I'm going to break it there. Okay.
God spoke, let us make human beings in our image, make them reflecting our nature, so they can be responsible for the fish in the sea, the birds in the air, the cattle, and yes, earth itself, and every animal that moves on the face of the earth. God created human beings. He created them God-like, reflecting God's nature. He created them male and female. God blessed them. Prosper, reproduce, fill earth, take charge. Be responsible for fish in the sea and birds in the air, for every living thing that moves on the face of earth.
Okay.
That verse has caused a lot of trouble.
Okay, why?
Dominion.
Yeah. But you have heard me say so many times that, the dominion of God. The dominion of God does not demean us. The dominion of God, the kingdom of God, because we use in NCC inclusive language, but because dominion doesn't mean that you can go in and rape the earth.
Convincing folks.
Yeah, I know, but I have something that's going to deal with that. We don't have the right. We may have dominion. We may have the ability to nurture the earth, to grow things in it, to eat of it, to build upon it. We do not have the right to rape it. We do not have that right.
Well, if you say be responsible for it, that's not being responsible.
No, that's not being responsible. You are supposed to take care of it. We are stewards of the earth. Okay? And if we're stewards of the earth, we can't use it up and not leave it for the next generation. And we're doing that. We're doing that.
Marge, there's
What?
a broader scope than just dominating.
Yeah. But dominion and dominance are not the same thing.
Just a
They
big
may
word.
have a similar root,
Right.
but they don't mean the same
don't.
thing. We are not to dominate the earth, we are to have dominion over
Or
it.
to
Be
put it in a
responsible.
Go ahead.
to put it in a financial standpoint, we're both trustees and beneficiaries of the trust, and we have a fiduciary duty to preserve the corpus and pass it down.
Amen.
Cool, that is why you.
Very well put.
Very cool.
Well put. Okay.
Oh, it's regular.
Okay. God said. Yeah, somebody want to pick it up with God said, verse 29. Joe?
God said, "See, I have given you every plant yielding seed that is upon the face of all the earth, and every tree with seed in its fruit. You shall have them for food. And to every beast of the earth, and to every bird of the air, and to everything that creeps on the earth, everything that has the breath of life, I have given every green plant for food." And it was so.
Okay. And Jimmy, you want to finish it up?
Psalm 31.
Yeah.
God looked at everything he had made and found it very good. Evening came, and morning followed, the sixth day.
Okay. And Pastor, you want to read the seventh day? Chapter 2. The first 3 verses of chapter 2 really belong with chapter 1.
Thus the heavens and the earth were finished in all their multitude, and on the seventh day God finished the work that he had done, and he rested on the seventh day from all the work that he had done. So God blessed the seventh day and hallowed it, because on it God rested from all the work that he had done in creation.
Okay. So there's your 7-day week. Do you know that no other civilization of their time had a 7-day week? They had a solar calendar, they had a lunar calendar. Nobody had a 7-day week.
The Romans thought they were incredibly lazy because they rested for 1 day out of 7.
Yeah. But think about that God, this transcendent, loving, caring God who takes that crazy story from Enuma Elish and then sits down and says, hey, I can do better. My God is better than that. My God did it this way.
And it was good instead
And
of violent.
it was good. That's right. And it was good. And everything he saw was good. Now there's a reason for that. People throughout the ages, even up until the 13th and 14th century AD, believed that there were 2 gods who created the world. Well, there are, but there were 2 gods. There was an evil God who created humanity and a good God, or who created matter, and a good God who created spirit. And they believed that, and there are still people who believe it. And I have had a fight with a friend of mine for over 60 years who is joining a religious group that still believes that. We are still fighting. Oh, dear.
What religion is that?
Huh?
What religion is that? Religion.
It's Gnostic. Gnostic. It's Gnostic. And they are still around. They are still around. And it's some woman out on the West Coast is trying to get disciples to believe this. Is your God a good God? Is your God a good God? God did not create us to be kicked around. God did not create us to be chessmen on a giant chessboard moved around by God. God gave us the world. God gave us stuff to work with. And then, of course, we are going to get into it, but God gave us a certain amount of free will. And
That's where you get your trouble.
I love it.
And the right said amen.
Okay. In your folder, somewhere, no, that's one folder. In your folder, there are a couple of pages. Okay, one that says the creation story, and one that says Creation by James Weldon Johnson. And I included him just because I love it. Okay, we're going to analyze it and look at it. What's the pattern? And I've spelled it out for you so you don't have to even think about it. But what's the pattern in each day? There's an introduction. There's a command, God said. There's an accomplishment of the command, and I misspelled down. An accomplishment of the command, an affirmation of goodness, and an identification of the day. So there's the pattern. Okay? And then you have days 1 through 7. Now, look at the bottom there. You have 3 days of separation. And that's inanimate things. Okay? You have 3 days of population. That's animate stuff. And you have 1 day of celebration. Why? Even at the time of the exile, not everybody was illiterate. Priests, people connected with the temple, they were literate. But not everybody was. And these stories were, these myths, this is a myth, were told, and they were told in a way that any youngster, your little ones, 3 days of separation,
They remember it better than I do.
3 days of population, 1 day of celebration. You can teach that.
You better repeat the story right or they will correct you.
You got that right.
And they will
I got the
correct
animal
it.
on a long day.
They will correct it. Okay. These fixed patterns warn us that we are dealing with a special kind of writing, not scientific description, certainly not an eyewitness report. We are dealing with a poem-like story designed to aid memory and teach. It's a mnemonic device. You say it over and over and over, and it sticks in the memory, and it's a mnemonic device in an oral transmission. And that's how kids learned in those days. The rabbi, well later the rabbi, would say it and repeat it, and the kids would repeat it back. And that's how the stories went.
Human megaphone.
Huh?
I was listening to VR coming in, we have a human megaphone with the
Oh, yeah.
the same thing.
Okay. Now, if you want to be a scientist, and you have to put up with me on this one, I took geology, so you have to look at what I would think, having taken geology, how the days ought to go if you want to make it science. Okay? You would have day 1, the separation of light and darkness. Day 2, the separation of waters, water in the sky, water in the earth. Day 4, the sun, moon, and stars. The Big Bang, if you will. Day 5, the birds and the sea creatures. He was around way before we were. this little trilobite.
Mhm.
Okay? Let's see, day 5. Day 3, the land and vegetation. The vegetation didn't come before the sea creatures. The sea creatures were there. And as the land separated and dried out, you had dry land. So that, and then day 6, the people and the animals. Once you have dry land, you have animals. Lovely thought. Think about dinosaurs for a minute, okay? Way back, millions of years, dinosaurs. Sometime before the dinosaurs, some little creature crawled out of the sea onto the dry land. Some kind of amphibian maybe crawled up on the dry land and found that that little creature could live on the dry land. And it laid eggs, which were a whole different kind of thing. And then began to mature into things like dinosaurs and huge creatures. And then there was some kind of cataclysm. They think a comet, a huge comet, hit the Earth. And between pressure and heat and all the things that go with that, the dinosaurs disappeared. But the vegetation and the fossils from that time all got compacted down into the Earth. And they're there. You dig them up. This is coal country. This is cold. I bet you they found critters like him in the coal, which is where you often find. But all that stuff became coal. And then mountains got pushed up or shoved up. And there we were. And the little creature who appeared at the time, the little mammal, who first appeared at the time of the dinosaurs, was the start of all mammalian creatures. And if you ask upon an evolutionist, okay, but that's, that's a real rough geological. Okay, the 7th day is holy. The 7th day is the Sabbath.